to Dr. Walter Harrison, your president, and to Delois Lindsay, and to the event chair, Christine Grant, with whom we communicated quite a bit. I say, good morning. It's an honor to be here, to be your keynote speaker here at my alma mater, the University of Hartford. Every year, let me just say thank you to my friend, my mentor and brother-in-law, Curtis Robinson. What a wonderful man to have on your board, and what a good man to have in my corner, he and his wife, Sheila. And to my lovely wife, Monica. Please stand up, Monica, and say hello to my wife, Monica. I'm happy that they were able to come and be a part of this event today. Oh, I really enjoyed your skits, your tableaus, your words. They were powerful and moving. Thank you to those students and to this beautiful, beautiful choir. Give another round of applause. That wonderful, wonderful performance. You know, every year when we celebrate the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr., like a breeze, freedom is refreshed. And once again, I can remember those days, yes, in which we lived, longing for the fulfillment of a dream. In 1959, 4 years before the March on Washington, as a 13-year-old junior high school student graduating, I wasn't touched by all the powerful and profound civil rights violations in our nation. I was having another kind of dream. I was 13. I dreamed of going to Glen Echo Amusement Park, riding on a roller coaster with my 8th grade class that from Long Island, New York, was heading down to Washington, D.C. to see the national sights. We saved up a long time for that trip. I wrote about this trip in an article that was published in the New York Times and was received for editorial excellence and reprinted in Chicken Soup for the Soul, the original book. And by God's grace, we are now in every 7th grade reader around the country. It's called a Mason-Dixon memory. And I talked about this trip to Washington in 1959, where the highlight of the trip was not necessarily going up the Washington Monument, which I did walking up the monument. Oh my God, I couldn't get to the 3rd floor now. But we walked up at our young age, and we went to the Lincoln Memorial and so many wonderful places, the Smithsonian. But for these 8th graders, the key was Glen Echo Amusement Park. And the day we were to go to Glen Echo, we went to lunch at the restaurant at the hotel. And I was called over by one of our chaperones and said, Clifton, I need to talk with you. I thought, oh my God, they saw us throwing water balloons out the window. She said, I said, what is it? She said, have you heard about the Mason-Dixon line? I said, oh, is that the line that defines who went to the north and to the south during the Civil War? Yes, something like that. She said, well, Glen Echo Amusement Park is below the Mason-Dixon line. It was 1959. Civil rights hadn't moved. She said, I'm sorry, Clifton, you won't be able to go with the rest of the class. You see, I was the only African-American student in a class of 99 kids. I went to school with nothing but white folk, and I never felt any different until that moment. until they refused to allow this little 13-year-old kid to ride the roller coaster. Well, my heart was broken, and I ran back upstairs, started crying, and some of my boys came following me into the room. Frank Miller, Jewish friend. I didn't know he was Jewish until later. Hey, Cliff, what's the matter, man? I saw you come up here crying. What happened? I said, they won't let me go to Glen Echo Amusement Park because I'm colored, and it's below the Mason-Dixon line. I said, what? What kind of stupid stuff is that? I mean, we all go together up in New York. He said, I don't understand that. He said, all right, if you're not going, I'm not going either. An Italian kid came up to the room. We'll call him Joey. What's up, Cliff? Somebody mess with you, you need me to help you out? You want me to tighten them up? Come on, I'll hook it up. Who messed with you? What they say, man? I said, no, they're just not going to let me go to Glen Echo because they don't allow colored people in there. He said, what kind of stupid stuff is that? I never heard nothing like that. I said, well, you can't go. I'm not going either. And before I knew it, 11 other students were in the room saying they weren't going to go if I couldn't go. The chaperones had to come up with another plan because they heard Clifton and 11 disciples weren't going. And so they planned another evening for us, and they sent us to a baseball game, a night game. First night game I'd ever been to, and we all had a wonderful time. Two very important things happened that day. I came face to face with discrimination. I came face to face with oppression. And the same day, I found out it wasn't all white people who felt that way. And I found out that black and white, when we hang together, can do great things. The civil rights movement was never just a black movement. In fact, I dare say it couldn't really have moved very far if there weren't whites, Jews, Asians, Native Americans a part of that movement as well. When I recall those difficult days, I remember the lessons I learned, and I can't help but hear the echoes of Martin Luther King Jr.'s words of inspiration, and I can't help but again feel the experience of the evolution of civil rights in America. Dr. King was called the drum major for freedom. And with his leadership, the world was changed for all people. And the freedom envisioned by our nation's founding fathers was made tangible for every American. With his voice, he made the clarion call. And with his heartbeat, he followed a different drummer, one which synchronized with the heart of God. With his life, he harmonized with heaven in the righteous song of nonviolence, peace, love, forgiveness, salvation, equality, and freedom. What does freedom mean to you today, students? What does freedom mean to you? The meaning of freedom has changed through the years based on hopes and dreams and oppression that we've been denied. Now, I believe if we asked everyone here today for a definition, freedom would be described in many different ways. But for those of us who lived through those dreadful days of discrimination, freedom means the right to enjoy all the privileges of citizenship. It means equal rights, the power or right to act, speak, or think as one wants without hindrance or restraint. It wasn't that long ago that the dream of freedom in America was a reality reserved for whites only. For many African Americans, Native Americans, Hispanics, Asian Americans, it was only a dream that had been deferred for too many years. Dr. King inspired the world in 1963 when he gave that historic speech, "I Have a Dream." Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was one man who realized that time and civilization are moving forward, and he was determined that we as a people would not and could not wait forever for our freedom. And by his determination, his sense of divine destiny, by his gift of communication, his concept of community, his Nobel Prize-worthy principles of peace, King fought nonviolently for our future. Yes, I understand, having gone to college in Alabama in the 60s and being forced to drink at the colored drinking fountain and pass by the bathroom marked for whites only, I understand why on December 1, 1955, Rosa Parks, feeling too weary from too many hours on her feet and too many years of unbearable injustices, decided not to give up her seat on that bus in Montgomery, Alabama, so that a white man could sit down, and she found herself arrested and jailed. And then Dr. King, I understand why he dove into the current of the mighty river of social justice, towing the lifeline of nonviolent social protest, determined to swim against the tide of oppression and rescue the oppressed people of our nation onto the shores of freedom and equality. Yes, he resuscitated the civil rights movement for all mankind. I'm told that Dr. King's favorite hymn was, "If I can help somebody as I pass along, then my living shall not be in vain." Well, today, largely due to Dr. King's service and sacrifice, many of those dreams have become reality. Oh, it's changed. Life is different in America. His living was certainly not in vain. Equal rights under the law have been public policy since 1964. Thank you, Dr. King. Legalized segregation in public education is a thing of the past. Thank you, Dr. King. Black patrons don't have to sit in the balcony to see a movie in Memphis or to attend a predominantly white church. Thank you, Dr. King. Today, hotels that used to refuse me rooms like the Holiday Inn and the Hampton Inn and the Days Inn, well, now they let me in and they leave the light on for me. Thank you, Dr. King. Today, black-owned businesses can and do go global. Thank you, Dr. King. Today, Ebony and Jet are joined by African-American publishing of more than 250 newspapers, publications, including Oprah Magazine. Thank you, Dr. King. Today, we have had Ken Chenault, Division President at American Express, Carl Ware, Deputy Group President at Coca-Cola, Alfred T. Mays at Johnson & Johnson, Roger L. Plummer, President and CEO at Ameritech, A. Barry Rand at Xerox, Brent Edgerton at Campbell Soup, Richard Nanula at the Disney Corporation, Johnny Furr at Anheuser-Busch, Gilroy Griffin at Bristol-Myers Squibb, and on, African-American CEOs and presidents. Thank you, Dr. King. Today, our American history is highlighted by the names of black astronauts and statesmen in Congress, in the White House, and almost every cabinet-level position. Thank you, Dr. King. Today, the National Conference of Black Mayors serves more than 650 mayors, 32,000 global political leaders of color. Thank you, Dr. King. Today, we have representation in almost every state legislature and a thriving national black caucus. Thank you, Dr. King. Today, Sidney Poitier and Hattie McDaniel got a little company over at the Academy Awards. although it may not look like it this year. They have Louis Gossett Jr. and Cuba Gooding Jr. and Morgan Freeman and Whoopi Goldberg and Jamie Foxx and Monique and Forrest Whitaker and Jennifer Hudson and Denzel Washington has two and Halle Berry carries her own. Yes, sometimes Oscar can be seen wearing a black face, but he's not singing Mammy and he's not holding a lantern on somebody's lawn. Thank you, Dr. King. Today, pioneers like Jackie Robinson, Willie Mays, and Hank Aaron, Jim Brown, Charlie Sifford have been joined at the top by countless athletes of color, 59 in the Baseball Hall of Fame. And they've been joined by folks like Walter Payton and Jerry Rice and on, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Venus and Serena, Tiger Woods. Thank you, Dr. King. Today, not only Representative Shirley Chisholm, Senator Carol Moseley Braun, Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton have run for president. Today, a true African-American, Barack Hussein Obama, is the two-term sitting president of the United States. Thank you, Dr. King. Like the walls of Jericho, racial barriers have come tumbling down. So thank you, Dr. King. Your living was not in vain. But we've still got a long way to go. We've got a long way to go. Injustice has reared its ugly head in Ferguson, Missouri. The shooting death of an unarmed teen, Michael Brown, by the now former local police officer, Darren Wilson. The death of Eric Garner in New York City from a chokehold at the hands of a policeman. Cedric Chapman, recently discovered, an unarmed teenager who was shot and killed by Chicago police officer Kevin Fry. Indeed, other brutalities and injustices escape public scrutiny. In the words of Dr. King, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. That's why this MLK holiday should be a day on and not a day off. There's work to be done. And we must all do something with our freedom, something that goes beyond merely enjoying its benefits. Dr. King once said, "Human progress is neither automatic nor inevitable. Every step toward the goal of justice requires sacrifice, suffering, and struggle. The tireless exertions and passionate concern of dedicated individuals ever searching for ways and means to improve our society for everyone's social benefit. If we would improve the world and our future generations, men, women, brothers, sisters, we must teach our children. Teach them tolerance and understanding. Teach them to respect the cultures of others as well as their own. Teach them to have a dream. See it through to its fulfillment. I ask you today, do you have a dream? Do you have a dream? Well, remember that between yesterday's dream and tomorrow's regret is today's opportunity. On this Martin Luther King Jr. holiday, let us maximize the opportunity to keep the dream alive. Until, in the words of Dr. King, we will be able to emerge from the bleak and desolate midnight of man's inhumanity to man into the bright and glittering daybreak of freedom and justice. And that will be the day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Catholics and Protestants, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, "Free at last, free at last, thank God Almighty, free at last." Thank you.